Once upon a time, there was a girl robot who had been programmed by her creator, Henrietta von Ballbreaker, to dislike the men's, and her name was Misandroid. Misandroid was programmed to seize every opportunity to be mean to the men's, offensive to the men's, and sexist to the men's. One day, one of the men's was waiting next to Misandroid at the train station. All he said to Misandroid was, "It's a nice day, isn't it?" But due to her programming, she answered, "Speaking to me is rape, and looking at me is violence, therefore sexual violence." Offended, the man replied, "That's a horrible thing to say." To which Misandroid replied, "Not as horrible as your maleness, rapist," sending the man away in fear. Misandroid didn't care at all that she had threatened to ruin a man's life. It was as if Misandroid had no feelings whatsoever, which was also true because she was a robot and didn't have a feelings chip. Once on the train, Misandroid sat between two men's with her bags on either side of her, bag spreading, and exposing her lipstick and makeup and keys and compact and chocolate wrappers and used tissues and tampons and pictures of her cat and mace and phone charger and hair ties and Botox and false nails and pregnancy test kit and hand cream and stolen bottle of Chanel No. 5. "You creeps smell disgusting," asserted Misandroid, subject to her programming. "You've got that nauseating man smell where you attempt to cover up your abhorrent stench with success, but of course fail miserably because success is all men know," she said in an extremely loud voice, even though it didn't make any sense. Not seizing the opportunity to pretend to be tough, one of the real women's never stepped forward to defend the men's, not exposing her blatant infantilization of men's by demonstrating that she knows the men's dare not defend themselves and that they need women's to stand up for them, even though that didn't make any sense either. "If there's one thing I hate more than a man, it's another woman," said Misandroid as she switched her left hand to cat claw mode. Next stop for Misandroid was a quick trip through the car wash. Then Misandroid went to the local school and after locking the male teacher in the stationery closet, which brought her great pleasure despite the absence of a feelings chip, made the boys and girls take feminism lessons. She taught them that historically the greatest threat to women was men, that one woman is killed by her partner in a domestic violence situation every 6 days, without mentioning the number of men killed at all, that it wasn't women's fault that men behaved like morons and like pigs, and that changing men's toxic masculinity wasn't women's responsibility, but that men needed to step up and call out men's bad behaviour wherever they saw it, just like what the kids are told every other day. That evening, Misandroid was a guest on Q&A, where she agreed with Australia's most hated feminist, Tony Jones. As to be expected, Tony Jones tried to shut everybody else down by interrupting them every time they made a valid point, and Misandroid was equal to the task and bolstered Tony's tactics by talking about his vagina. Later that night, on the way home, Misandroid saw two men walking home, and so to terrorise them, and just for a laugh, she chased them into an industrial facility. Unfortunately for Misandroid, their names were Bill O'Brien and Harry Norville, founders of Breville, and she suddenly found herself converted into a food processor, destined to spend the rest of her life in the kitchen. I guess it doesn't pay to be a misandrist after all. The end.